There are things in your life that you go, there's just no way. It's not going to happen. There's no way through this. I don't know how we're going to, this marriage is gone. My kids I have this addiction that I've been trying to get through, and this is going to be the year. This is going to be the year. This is going to be the year. But you're probably deep inside going, no, it's impossible. I've been trying now for years. It's not possible. When life seems impossible, we want you to see the God of the possible. When life seems impossible, we want you to see the God of the possible. Thanksgiving this year, do you guys go around and say what you're thankful for as a family? You go around, a few of you raise your hands, you tried it last year, like that was lame, so you don't do it anymore because everyone says the same thing, yeah. We typically do that as well, and I thought this year I don't want to just hear the same old thing, so I'm standing there, and I've got everybody in a circle, and I'm like, okay, and it hit me. These people would not be in the room had it not been for Christ. I was not raised in a Christian home, and for me to experience a family of faith was profound for me as I'm looking. I got my kids from Tucson were not in town. They went to her side of the family this year. But my kids are there, my grandkids are there. We got friends there that are more family to us than some of my own personal family, right? The parents, the grandparents there from Rebecca's side. And I'm just, this is cool. There's a verse in the Bible, Ephesians 2:19, says, you are no longer strangers and foreigners. I don't know if you've been in a place where you're the odd man looking in. You ever walk, you go to a new company, you go to a new school, you go to a new neighborhood, and everyone kind of is all together, and everyone's got it together, and you're the odd man looking in. You're a stranger, you're a foreigner. That was me before I met Christ. Before I entered into this thing and said, hey, I'm going to change kingdoms. I've been the kingdom of Charlie, and I want to be the kingdom of Christ. Some of you are in that same place. You're the kingdom of you. You're doing your thing. You're calling your shots. And you come to church, but you're still on the outside looking in. And maybe today, maybe here through this Christmas season, you'll make a decision. Say, I don't want to be a foreigner. It says, because now I'm a member of God's family. And I had that profound experience at Thanksgiving going, wow, I'm a member now of God's family. No longer on the outside. No longer alone and without in this world. Many of you moved here from places, around the United States, and your real family is back in Ohio, back someplace, and you're not there. Like, hey, we're just here. We don't have people to call. On Friday, my wife had to go to work, Black Friday, and so I looked at my daughter Hannah and said, Hannah, we've got this oven in our house that won't keep temperature, right? So, honest, my wife was worried about the turkey. She goes, did it get to the right temperature? This oven is so stupid, and I don't know how, and she's been grousing about this oven. You ever heard the saying, happy wife, happy life? Yeah, well, buy a nice oven, guys. So we go down to the scratch and dent place in Auburn at the Auburn Outlet Malls. And I said, say, Hannah, it's Black Friday, let's go down there. We took our life in our own hands. The Lord was down to, and we're there. We're going through there it is. That's the oven. So these guys pack this thing, put it on the truck, and I get it home, and I ask him, how much does this weigh? He goes, well, 396 pounds. Okay. The idea was to have it installed and done before Santa gets home, right? So this is scratch and dent, so I'm not paying for install, and I got to get it hold. So I can do it. Remember, I have ADHD. I have no prefrontal cortex, so everything's possible. And, it's just no big deal. So here I am with this 396 pound. I borrowed the hand truck from the church. Jeff, if you need the hand truck, it's at my house. And then I had this little dolly thing. I thought, I can get this thing. Hannah, you and me, we can do this. And she says, Dad, I'll help you. She takes the picture. That's her help. Yeah, I'm gonna film this thing. We're gonna put it on YouTube and make $1 million because this is gonna be a joke. And so I got it about here. I'm going, Hannah, you can help. Get your gloves on, right? And she's like, I don't think so. And I don't know what happened. Sandy got off work early. She comes pulling into the driveway, and I'm about in this position, and she's going, what are you doing? She goes, you can't. I go, it's only 396 pounds. And she goes, I know. Why haven't you called Chris? Well, many of you know Chris Kenneberger. and Chris can do anything, and he and I are great friends. And I go, Hannah said that. Why haven't you called? Yeah, here's my help, Dad. Call Chris. So I'm stuck. I can't get it any further. This thing's going to be a mess. So I call Chris. I'll be right over. 15 minutes. He's over at my house. Brought his boy Scotty. He's home from college, and it may have been 2.5 hours, 3 hours that he stayed there. And doggone it, if he didn't get this thing off the truck, installed in my house, and done. Why? Because I'm part of a family. I made a decision to follow Jesus, and he made me no longer a foreigner and a stranger, and he gave people in my life. See, when life seems impossible, see the God of the possible. There's 2 people in the story that we're going to look at today. 2 of them facing impossible situations. 2 of them directly related to the Christmas story. Separated by 2,000 years. One is Sarah, and one is Mary, the mother of Christ. 2,000 years. Sarah is as far away from Mary and Jesus as we are from Jesus in terms of his birth. Right? 2,000 years. And yet, without Sarah, there would have been no Mary. Without Sarah, there would have been no Jewish people for Mary to be born into, to carry the Christ. Both of them have some challenges. If you see in your notes there, they're both facing impossible kind of situations. There's no child. One woman has no children, and she's old, like 90 years old. Can you imagine being told by God that you're going to have a child and you're 90 years old? And you hadn't had kids before, right? My mom is in her 80s, and I'm looking at her going, yeah, that's not happening. That's an impossibility, God. There's just no way. And did you give her 10 more years? No. There are others who are young. Mary was in her teens. And you just get married, or you've been married for a while, and you're trying, and it's just not working for you. Sandy, I have prayed for many couples and women who have said, I want to have a baby, and it's just not working. And the discouragement, and you try, and you look at the little thing, and the lines are not pink or blue, and one more disappointment. And you think, oh, doctors don't know anything, they don't know what to do, but it's just not, and you get to the point where it's impossible. So many of us have had dreams, and something's been put in our hearts that, hey, that would be so cool, but because of disappointments, you won't even allow that dream to come out because you know it's going to be impossible. The family to work, some of the things that Pastor Kevin prayed for. My child to get off drugs. To have the job that, the financial resources. And you won't even let them out there because of the disappointment. It's just too far out there. It's just too impossible. When life feels impossible, we haven't felt the God of the possible. And they have a problem. No children. And the other one to be a single mom. Say, now what am I going to do? Mary's thinking, well, Joseph's not going to stay with me. I'm going to have this baby, and he's going to wonder who the father is, and I'm going to tell him, and it's going to be right. And I'm going to have to raise this child myself. And some of you single moms know the challenges that you go through daily in raising your kid, and life can feel impossible. Letter B in your notes, both of these women were from obscurity, but God knew where they were. Sarah had left her home in the Ur of the Chaldees and went with her family down to Canaan. A little spit of land now you hear about a lot on the news in Israel, about 100 miles wide, about 300 miles long. It's just a nothing piece of dirt there, a bunch of sand, one little river going through it. The only fresh water in the country that doesn't come by rain is this one river, a little lake there called the Sea of Galilee. It's not even as big as Lake Washington. They call it a sea. Hey, the Sea of Galilee. Nothing. Nobody wants it. Just a crossroads, people traveling through. And yet in Genesis 8:18, God knew where she was. He says, "Where's your wife, Sarah?" This is God speaking. "Where's your wife, Sarah?" He didn't ask because he didn't know where she was. He wanted Abraham to know that he knew where his wife was. And he called her by name. He changed her name before, but there's no record of them ever being introduced formally. But he knows where she's at. For Mary, you know the story. Now in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel sent from God to the town of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin who was to be married to a man named Joseph of the family of David, and the name of the virgin was Mary. Now you know that story, but we know she's from Nazareth. But did you know Nazareth today is about 40,000 people? 2,000 years ago, it's about 200 people. It was a nothing. There was no infrastructure, no running water, no flushing toilets. It was a nothing little town. None of the Roman infrastructure had gotten there. There was nothing there. It was just they lived on subsistence agriculture. In fact, Nathaniel, one of the guys in the Bible, was told, "Hey, you got to meet Jesus. He's from Nazareth." And Nathaniel makes this statement: "Can anything really good come out of Nazareth? I mean, it's like the OMAC. Come on, seriously?" Those of you from OMAC, God bless you. And do you have running water yet there? I don't, it's kind of like Concanelli, too. It's the same deal. And my brother over there is laughing at me. There's nothing there. But God knew who lived in Nazareth, and knew a young lady named Mary who lived there. You may feel like you come from a no-good home. You may feel like you're in a no-good job. You may feel like you're in a no-good school. You're just in a dead end. You're just like, it's just, I'm out here. They don't even know what I do at my job. My wife doesn't even know what I do in my home. Nobody even cares. Nobody knows. And yet God knows. He knows your name. He knows where you're at. When life seems impossible, see the God of the possible. The other thing they had in common is they got the same message. The same message. You're going to have a child. Yeah, right. There's no way. Look at the message that the Lord gives them. In Luke 1, it says, "For nothing will be impossible with God." Wow. You can have a child and never be with a man. That's amazing. Well, I'm 90. I'm 90. I'm never going to have a child. And look what God says to Sarah. "Is anything impossible for the Lord? At the appointed time, I will come back to you, and in about a year, your wife's going to have a son." Impossible. Whatever you think about God, it's too small. There are things in your head, in your heart, in your mind, you go, there's no way that God can do that one. Your God is too small. He's the God who can do the impossible. When life seems impossible, see the God of the possible. Both of them loved God and were on a mission for God. They had this similarity. Both of them loved God and were on a mission for God. You know, in my life, so many times I've asked God for miracles and they haven't happened. I go, "God, I really need this. God, this would be so cool. God, would you answer this prayer? Please just answer this prayer." And man, I'm just really going after God. I said, "God, do this. And please." You ever wonder why God answers prayer for other people and doesn't answer your prayer? I mean, this was Mary and Sarah. They get the miracle. One's an old lady and the other one's too young to know anything about life. Come on. But they both love God and were on a mission for God. This verse in the Bible that we love to quote is found in Romans 8. And it says, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. And I highlighted that word we because that we is for people who are followers of Christ. Paul's writing this to Christians, to people who have made the decision to follow Jesus, change kingdoms. And it says, we know this. People outside of faith, people outside of the family of God, they get ticked at God for not answering their prayers. They get mad at God. In fact, some of them, you will talk to them, invite them to Christmas Eve. They'll say, no, God's, I've talked to God before, and he didn't do this for me, and I asked for this, and he didn't do this. And I think about that in my own life, and the times when God, and this is for me, and God can do whatever he wants to, but for me, the times in my life when I'm asking God, and I'm going, God, I need this. Much of the time, if not most of the time, those prayers are for me. I want them for me. And there's some conditions in this. We know that God loves them, but he works all those who love God. Am I asking this prayer because I love God? Or am I asking for this from God because I love me? And I want this for me. Is this really about God or is this more about me? And then it says, for those who are called according to his purpose. Is this going to further the kingdom of God? Is it going to further God's purpose on earth, to share God's love with the people around, every single person? Or is it going to be a blessing to me? And I think many of my prayers, most of my prayers are the first kind, that I want this, and God, this is, and even when I pray for God, it's for the children, and I'll try to bargain with God on, and you know what I come to? If I was God, I would answer this prayer for me. If I was God, I would do this. Rather than taking a step back and saying, God, you don't just sprinkle people with miracles like Santa Claus. Hey, good and bad, and we'll give you toys and stuff. Everything you do is to further the message of God's grace and love to a broken and hurting people. And if this is all about me, and you read the miracles of the Bible, you may find one, but you'll find that even if the person who's praying is receiving some benefit from the answered prayer, it is in the context of fulfilling God's greater purpose. It is in the context of, even with Sarah, didn't have a child. What better prayer could you pray than a child? Come on, God. I'm not just giving this child so that you can have a child, Sarah. You've waited so long for it. You deserve this. No, I'm giving you this child because it's going to be a blessing. I don't give you miracles just to bless you. I give you miracles so that you can be. And most of us don't want to be, we want to receive. We want to have it because we want our life to be a little bit better, rather than saying, hey, God, how can you pour through me? How can you change the world through me? And then are called according to his purpose. Well, this would be good for me, but not necessarily for your purpose.